read one passage every day. I feel the strength of his words.
You are not allowed to have any contact with any former gang members.
He knows my struggle.
This place, take care of it, like if it was your own.
Sure you want it all off tonight?
Your church is right in the middle of a highly active neighborhood.
It's a place I hope these kids can look to a better future than what these gangs have to offer.
Please.
What's going on here?
We don't want you here. Just walk away, Pastor.
You used to be these kids. Help us.
You're locked now! Hear me?
It's up to us to take back our streets, our community.
No one's gonna keep us off our turf!
Make him fight you.
Courage, heart, it's what we're fighting for.
You cannot be man of God and a killer of men.
Man of God? You're nothing!
My church is my territory.
Well, congratulations on the movie. This is a very heartfelt film, The Pastor. And I was just curious, I imagine you get this question a lot, but where did the idea of this movie come about from?
It came about because of two factors. One is that I started doing research on the kids and the gangs back in 2005. I was born and raised in El Salvador in Central America, and I was living in Miami at the time, and I was traveling down there because I sensed that this was going to become a very, very large problem for our society down there. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even had imagined then that it would have become this big, and the region, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, and 91% of the United States. Yeah. It's really crazy, and it's just a fact. You go to the FBI page, they have a gang specialized unit, and these are facts. 91% of the U.S. is infested by gangs. So it's really tough. It's really sad, and in my experience, you know, these kids are looking for the same things. They're looking for brotherhood, identity, community, protection, and they're certainly not going to get all of those in a gang. You know, most of them, when I was doing research, 6 months after I'd spent time with some of them, I would never find them. And it's not that they left the gang; they left this life in most cases. So it was very dramatic. But I never wanted to exploit the violence in this world to sell tickets. So it took me 10 years, almost 10 years, to get to what you see now here with The Pastor. And this story that came about when I was in the darkest of darkest in my personal life, and in 3 days of solitude and isolation, I came up with the story that became the movie.
Yeah, that's great. I was gonna ask if this was a movie you could have made earlier in your life, or was now the best time to do it?
No. Listen, I gotta tell you, in my experience, you know, and at least as an artist, you try to control the ride, but you cannot do it. It doesn't matter how much you try, how hard you try. It's an organic, you know, ongoing journey, and you know, this story came at the right time. I was last week. It was at the United Nations. I was invited there as a speaker for their conference on poverty, inequality, and social violence. How did that happen right at the time that I was about to come up with the movie? You know, it's just the right time. I am very excited about taking this movie all throughout the United States. We have 400 theaters across the nation, which, you know, for a small independent movie, it's quite a footprint in theaters.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned the UN. That's a great honor to speak there. What was the experience of that like, and what did you get the most out of that?
It was fantastic. It's one of those things that you don't know what you've gotten yourself into until you're actually there. They call your name, and you yeah. But it was life-changing. For me, it's been a long-time dream. On top of wanting to become an actor and to make movies, I've always wanted to make movies and be a part of movies that have social relevancy, that have a sense of urgency. That have great characters, great stories, all that, yes, but that I can sit down in one of my screenings and look up and be proud of it. And being at the UN was a great honor. I was there with work leaders in every field: academics, politics, social activists. I had it was a great mix, and just to see that what I've experienced in the U.S. and Latin America is going on around the world, it's quite alarming, and we have to come together. And we know that if you look at the equation, poverty plus inequality, it's social violence. So you have to go to the root of the problems in order to try to change the opportunities you give to these young kids, in order for them to not go into the hurricane that is social violence. They'll never come out.
Yeah, that's very true. And this movie was you came up with the story, but was written and directed by Deborah Goodwin.
Yes.
And I was just curious, what made you choose her to direct this project? What do you think she was able to bring to it?
Well, I gotta confess that she's been my long-term creative partner, and we've worked on a number of other projects, screenplays. One of them by the name of The Two Lives of Maxie Kaplan, which we're working on right before we shifted gears and came into this one. But I always knew that I had a clear vision of the story of this world because I lived it. But first of all, I'm no writer. I don't have the technical craft that Deborah has. And also, I needed her humanity, her love and kindness, because it's very easy for these worlds to be depicted from a male standpoint and be very violent and strong and just male-driven. I wanted this story and this character to be three-dimensional and for him to have a sensitivity that we rarely see on screen anymore. And she did a phenomenal job, because it ended up on the screen. When you see the movie, a lot of females love it. And when you talk about kids and gangs, you don't think it's a movie for females, but they do get it.
Yeah, now that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, because it's, in a mostly male-dominated industry, people tend to forget the value of female filmmakers.
Yes.
Especially, like Catherine Bigelow, who made the Ultimate War movies with The Hurt Locker, and basically with Deborah here, I mean, she gave this movie a perspective that it would not have otherwise had.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. So like I said, we not only had her gift as a filmmaker, but also her heart and her humanity ended up on the screen. And as you saw, we had a tremendous cast of great actors. I was very privileged to be able to be there in each scene with them and just reacting to what they were giving me. That's ultimately all you have as an actor, is the other person in front of you. And, everybody was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, were any of the actors former gang members, or was it mostly just cast of actors?
Well, just to secure their privacy, I won't name names, but yeah, there were a couple of them that had been in gangs.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's a part of what attracted them to the project and what attracted us to them, because they brought a certain legitimacy to those roles. And the ones that weren't came from neighborhoods that they were very familiarized with gangs in the New York area. Some from Detroit, Chicago, and New York.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, the city itself in this movie plays a big character as well. Is a big character as well. What made you choose this particular city to make the film in?
Well, I have done research all throughout the U.S. and I always thought of potential cities, including L.A. LA is your stereotypical gang city. I wanted to move away from that. I was also living in New York at the time. Deborah is based in New York, so it made sense because it was organic, and we went out to the neighborhoods, and some of the graffiti that you'll see. If you're an expert, you recognize certain signs, and you know who's behind them. So it's just it just makes sense, and I gotta say as well, you can't get better crews than what you get in New York, on top of the great actors that you can work with locally. It just won't happen. I would shoot every movie that I'm involved in New York if I could.
Yeah, that's great. And I imagine you had a very tight budget and shooting schedule for this movie. How long do you have to shoot it in?
Well, the budget was $28 million. We had 6 months to shoot. I'm joking. Yeah. We spent it in 4 weeks. No. We had a It's an independent project. It's an indie film, and we shot the entire thing in, I would say, 19 days. 15 days first. We had 2 segments, and then we had an additional photography session some months later, after we realized that we had the opportunity to expand the story into more of an arc for the character as well. So 19 days, I think, total.
That sounds like average for an indie movie these days, like a small indie movie. I think even Whiplash had like a 19-day shoot. Maybe
Yeah. The challenging thing was if you see the character, he's very quiet in parts of the movie, and he doesn't stop talking on other parts. He's a pastor. You know, that's what they do in real life. They talk and preach, and they talk about stories and the Bible, etc. So that was challenging to have 5, 6, 7, 8 pages a day of dialogue. But again, we had a tremendous crew, tremendous cast, all were pros. So, you know, it was just a great machinery once we came together. And we were shooting nights, most of the time, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Wow. So, yeah, our life just shifted.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you have to shift from one part of the day to the other.
Yeah.
It can have a big effect on you, yeah. And were there any kind of movies that served to influence the look of the pastor at all for you or Deborah?
Yes. There were a few, but there was the one that comes to mind was that Paul Newman, Tom Hanks movie.
Road to Perdition?
Road to Perdition. Yeah.
Oh, great one.
Yeah, you like it?
Oh, I like that movie a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Sam Mendes movies by far.
Yes.
And in terms of your research, was there anything that shocked or stood out to you the most?
Well, yeah. You know, the two things. One was the fact that these kids were so young, you know, 9, 10, 11 years old when they were getting into this world. Like I mentioned earlier, I was 12 years old when I started to you know, think about my life and you know, when I look back at the films that I was shooting then, I was just a kid, but 9 years old. I mean, it's just crazy. And the second thing is that a lot of these kids don't get to be 13, 14, 15 because, you know, a lot of them die in this world. And if you go down to Central America, they're either dead or in jail. And if they're in jail, there's also a huge chance that they will end up dead.
That's it's a sad fact, but you know, one that needs to be acknowledged. Yeah. And I mean, this movie deals with the classic story of an ex-con who led a dark life. He's trying to go straight, and he's still tempted by the dark world he left behind. And it makes for a very suspenseful movie as a result because you don't know how it's going to end up. And what were the challenges of sort of like portraying like the different sides of the character you play?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was very challenging in the sense that you have to go to very dark places in order to be to realistically bring the right emotions out of your physical and emotional body, and to be a real three-dimensional character. So you know, we did a lot of research. I did a lot of research, obviously, with the kids and the gangs, but also with jails and inmates in solitary confinement. And you know, you get to see crazy things. Fortunately, there's a lot of TV shows not out that deal with that, reality TV shows, and you'll be amazed about, you know, what you can find when you're doing research. And then, you know, you see this character as he is, you know, putting his heart out there, trying to protect the kids. You see him, you know, facing great adversity when a kid is shot in his church. You see him, you know, breaking down when he realizes that, you know, his wife has been kidnapped. So I mean, these are real emotions, and as an actor, that is always, you know, challenging. You need a great director to guide you. That's for sure.
Yeah.
To play the right strings, you know, to help you get to those strings, and then to play them. So you need gifted people to take you there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a character like this has got to be really challenging for an actor, just because you're dealing with a guy who's spent most of his life in crime, and now he's trying to go the right path, and it's like you sort of wondering, is he trying to convince himself or is he trying to convince others? And it's an interesting contrast in that regard, I think. Yeah, and what's the response been like to this movie so far for those who have seen it?
I've been very taken by the fact that everybody's embraced the movie, even though it's a small budget movie. It plays well. It's tight. It's 86 minutes. People get it. People like it. People get excited about it, and it's it's a slow burning character exploration. At the same time, it has a high tension to it, so it keeps you on your seat, holding tight to your seat. And people are very excited. And the thing that surprises me the most is that a lot of females, as we were speaking about, love it.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody that I know is married, I say, watch it with your wife. You got to bring your wife. She'll love it. And the kids, obviously, the young people, they really get it. I think they've gotten a new type of mentor, a new type of hero up on the screen, which is a man who's real.
Yeah.
Who comes from real life.
Absolutely. And I kind of liked how you have the tattoo removed on your neck early on in the movie, but you still have that bandage on. It's kind of like a metaphor for movies. Like you're trying to erase the past, but it's still kind of like a scar on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one in the neck, and it still hurts a little bit, and then the one in the back as well. So yeah, it's. I think that was one of the great images that we had in the movie is how these guys have to shed their old skin, and the only way to do it is sort of burn yourself. That's what they do. Either with acid or with a laser machine. So it's very tough, and again, it's all based on reality.
Yeah. Well, it's a terrific movie. I'm very happy for your success with it.
Thank you.
Hope a lot of people get to check it out.
Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you for your time, Arturo.
Appreciate it.
You bet.